Hey guys, got all my gear right here. This is a Kent BK8 silver tip badger brush. This is a big fellow. Got him from Shaving HQ, shavehq.com, and Chuck runs that business, and he's an awesome dude. I'm going to be using City Slicker for today's post shave from Stirling, and looks like use number 276 is on the docket for the blade today. Get that guy out. There's my little dots for my Nacet. And then today is Gentleman's Nod Vincent, a sample I was sent by a kind viewer, maybe a Redditor friend, but an online shaving friend, and I had never tried this soap base before, so I was very happy to give that a shot. It's an expensive soap, and the reason it's on today's themed shave from the Lather Games, for the Lather Games, is because I disagree with Ruds about this soap. I used it a couple of times several months ago and just didn't rate it all that highly. And he gives it, I think, a shave score of about 94. He thinks it's outstanding. And I think it's not even as good as Stirling. And it costs like $27 a tub. So how do you lather a little sample like this that comes in a baggie or a wax paper envelope or something like that? This is what I do. I take a 1/4 teaspoon of it, smush that into the bottom of my lather bowl. This is, since it's had some time to be by itself, I'm not going to be surprised if it loses a lot of its scent. Some Stirling samples do that. It's mid-firm, a little bit firmer than medium for a crope, but that also could be because it's been sitting in a bag for a while as a little tiny sample. Spreading it around, thin layer in the bottom of the bowl. You don't want any big chunks to come loose on you, because they will likely just fly around with the brush and will be really slow to integrate into your lather. You need stuff to stick to the bottom. A cream, you can leave chunks hanging out because they will just get worked on by the brush pretty easily. All right, let's put that blade in the long handle, huh? That's why I like this guy. I love the balance. I love that I can hold him about right here and shave, and because of that long handle, the balance is right. He doesn't shave well for me though. He's a little on the aggressive side. Let's see how he is with the Nacet today. There's the Nacet again. Oops, yeah, you got to be careful because this guy slides out freestyle. The base plate is connected to the handle in this type of model. And that's all there is to it. This one does have a crack in the handle right up here, but if you're shopping for something like this, I wouldn't really bother worrying about that too much. It's very common among these kind of razors. They probably got cranked a little too hard at some point. Maybe just metal fatigue. I'm not really sure. Maybe it was something where the head was kind of tweaked a little bit, like during packaging or travel, that sort of thing. But there's just, I think the issue with this guy, there's just a lot more exposure with him. And I think he's one of those new improved. I think he's in the line of razors called new improved, and those just seem to be a little harsh for me. But I love the balance. I love the look. Now this guy is, this is an expensive razor normally, but I got him for a pretty reasonable price because the top cap is just in such rough condition. It looks like somebody went at it with a wire drill attachment. Some kind of wire brush. All right, I just took a shower, but I'm going to go ahead and throw some water on my face, on my stubble anyway, prior to the building of lather. So I did wash my face with a glycerin soap during the shower. So there's a little bit extra on the pre-shave than I normally do. All right, now another thing I'm using in this shave is this Kent silver tip. And since this is my opinion day in the Lather Games, which means I'm going to disagree with somebody out there about something, and the soap I'm disagreeing with Rudd's about. And a lot of people probably had the same opinion as Rudd's and rated this soap base pretty highly. And so I probably could have picked some other people as well. I know that Michael Friedberg did a review on the Vincent, and I think it was pretty favorable. But since I knew Rudd's thought so highly of it and I saw his shave score, it was a little quicker to just go with him instead of, seek out somebody else. Now, one other thing that I really disagree about Rudd's on, and this kind of crops up in about every shave he does, he tells you that when properly lathered, the soap will have a certain consistency. I think most wet shavers should instantly. Most wet shavers of any good experience should instantly kind of bristle at that. Because, your consistency is your preference. You add more water, less water to get the lather to your consistency. Lots of people out there like those dry lathers. Face latherers especially. I don't like those. That's not my thing. I like them thinner. Some straight razor people like them even thinner than I do, where they're just dripping off your face and every single shave they do is super messy. And so to phrase it the way he does, he phrases it in an objective way. And the thing is that most of his 2 teaspoons now. Most of his article by that point is kind of objective sounding. He's just making objective notes about what he's finding out about the razor. Like he talks about the company, where they were when they were founded, how long they've been in business, what kind of soap bases they have, and then he starts talking about the lather. And a lot of his statements are objective. They're a third party, you could look at it and most people are going to come to the same conclusion. But then he says, when it's properly, what's his word? I said it earlier, when it's properly mixed, it comes to the consistency of sour cream or yogurt. He's got a laundry list of words that he uses for this. And I object to that because I think in a pool, in a forest of trees that appear to be objective, that is a very subjective and relative comment. And he doesn't phrase it that way. And I think that leads new shavers astray. I've left a comment about that, but it doesn't really matter to him. He hasn't changed his phrasing. Doesn't put an IMO in front of it or anything like that. I mean, in a sense, a lot of his review is, in my opinion only, that's just what reviews are. That's what my reviews are. They're in my opinion. But it's just that a lot of the statements around that with him are kind of in the objective. And so it's just hard to tell. That's my beef with him. But he rates this as a very good soap. And my lathers with it were just not all that impressive for a $27 soap. It needs to beat the pants off of most everything out there. Now, who knows? You know, am I going to discover, you know, a secret? Am I going to happen to use it in a certain way where the viscosity here, it's kind of light and airy. There is a slickness, a light, soapy, thin kind of slickness that's just unimpressive. Now, he rates the post-shave qualities as top tier. I believe he may have even ranked it at the very top. That I'm not really going to care too much about, but because I'm not a really good gauge of post-shave performance. I don't care about it too much anyway. I think this lather's probably good to go. Let's kind of do my usual thing with it and kind of lift half of it out of the bowl. If I balance it right, it'll stay. He slowly collapses, keeping most of his structure. So to my preferences, I might normally take this guy a little bit more with the water. Let's go ahead and do it just in case. And if he thins out, he thins out. But I believe this is the lather that I have used before. That just didn't make me all that happy because of the price point. To me, this is playing at about maybe the $13, $12, $11 level in terms of lather feel, in terms of lather slickness. I never really got much of a scent from it, even when I first got the sample, and the kind person who sent it to me said that it was a pretty freshly ordered sample, so the scent shouldn't have really degraded too much, but I'm not going to hold that against it at all. Seems to be a decent smell when I put my nose in it. I'm not really smelling it from here. But I don't really have any qualms. I'm not disagreeing really with anybody about the scent. Just the performance. Let's check it now. See if it is, the extra water has turned it. It actually has improved a little bit. There are some soaps that can feel and seem too watery. And so then you're afraid to add more water because you know that it'll just get thinner. But I believe what's actually happening is, I'm going to phrase it right, that water is finally able to activate something, and then it switches and becomes more creamy. That water just does something to it. Maybe it's just the more mixing that is required after you add some more water. Sometimes you can take a lather that doesn't really feel that awesome, and just 2 minutes of mixing is just what it needed to become this creamy, wonderful thing. Now, as you can see, I've got tons of lather from that little quarter teaspoon. There, we've got some elastic. We've got some elastic attributes going on with the soap now. Should make sure we get a good consistent mix. And let's shave with it. Just doesn't feel as luxurious as tobacco, fine, Mitchell's wool fat, Stirling, even those guys, much less something like Milk Steak or Excelsior or you know, the latest from Holy Cow or Declaration Grooming. Well, that was Milk Steak. All right, get my face wet. I noticed I did a little bit of reading on today's Shave of the Day posts, and I saw, because he mentioned my name, Mad Dingers Yo. He is a Reddit viewer, a friend of mine, and he also chose this very same soap. He doesn't get it in terms of performance either. Or wait, maybe I'm confused. Maybe he was actually kind of disagreeing with Mark from Friendship Shaving about Gentleman's Nod. And I read it a couple times, but I have forgotten the position that he took, whether Mark liked it and he didn't, or he liked it and Mark didn't. Now, it feels good on the face. Oh, you know, guys, I am reminded I probably shouldn't I need to quit wearing white shirts when I shave. I think they mess up the color balance. Like if I take a dark something and put it in front, see how everything brightened up, and then I take it away, then everything, all the kind of background around me and my face darkens up because it's adjusting for the white shirt. This brush is so soft, it makes about any lather feel great. I'm also using this brush today for a reason, because a lot of people disagree, and that's the theme kind of today's shave, about this kind of brush. It's floppy, it's big, it's soft. I'm going to transplant this knot into another handle someday because I hate the handle. It's that kind that is a very traditional style handle. It's very bulbous and round right here, and then right in here there's this really deep valley, and I filled that valley with rubber bands because I hate that valley. It just doesn't sit right with my fingers, so I filled it up and I like it a lot better. This lather just kind of looks kind of airy, thin, without much viscosity. And it felt that way even before I kept adding water. I'm going to ride the top cap a little bit on this one because it feels quite rough if I don't. Maybe I should have waited to use this razor on the day when I was using a more performance-based lather instead of one where I didn't actually like the performance. So staying kind of with the grain on this first pass is a little more important today than usual because of the aggression and blade feel. I love the look of this razor. Like I said, the balance, the heftiness, but the aggressive harshness is too much for me usually. Oh yeah, hey, let's take our goatee lather. Remember to do a little kind of touch up in this area. Hopefully the aggressiveness will have the wonderful side effect at the end of the shave of giving me a nice extra close shave. Sometimes that happens. A little half rinse there. I was able to keep it reasonably comfortable by kind of riding that top cap a little bit. And I think that's actually a pretty common technique for a lot of guys who just, as a part of their normal shaves, you know, maybe that gives them that lets them use an aggressive razor that without giving them irritation. Maybe that's the way they achieve that closeness. Now that first pass is usually the roughest, so I'll bet this I can probably use with a more balanced angle with just as much weight on the base plate as the top cap. And yes, it is working out that way. It's a pretty comfortable pass there. So it's just that first one. I may reevaluate this big fellow with some other blades just to see if I can find a better match. Now, I can see where the post shave might be really good on this. I do get a very slick residual feel while rinsing and right now when I was testing my face. It's just that if you're going to charge so much more than most of the other products out there on the market, you better deliver so much more in terms of something. And I just find that lacking. And I disagree with the super high shave score. From Rudd's, kind of for a similar reason. It's a good performing soap, don't get me wrong. I wonder what his shave score is on, you know, for Stirling. This may have just a edge on it in terms of maybe the post shave, but that doesn't matter to me though. I think I just throw on a balm after and I'm fine. So that's 3 passes. Oh, let's do our little touch-up pass with the, I can even go in and fetch, wow. I made quite a bit of lather. Looks like I've easily got like 4 more passes left. So the one thing I do like about this soap base is that it can give you a, looks like a pretty good investment, pretty good return for your soap usage. Looks pretty good. So in terms of face feel, contact slickness while on the face, it's really pretty good. The scent, even from the beginning, was a little too low for me. Now if I bought a full tub, then it's possible that it might be stronger because of that. Sometimes small samples just lose their scent. Maybe they sit at the maker's place for a little too long and lose scent that way. And as you can see, I have tons of lather remaining. So that's nice actually, because I could use a little, much less than a 1/4 teaspoon and still get a good amount of lather. So it's got, at least it's got that going for it. Let's just take a quick, I don't need to do any more shaving. So let's just take a quick look at the lather. Creamy in terms of keeping a light feel here, just kind of moving it around the hand. Very light lather, but when you go to contact slickness, there's just not much there. And so it doesn't feel all that luxury to me. Now, functionally speaking, you're not shaving with your fingers, of course, and so the razor's doing the work, and it has good glide. So functionally speaking, it's good. But this is kind of behaving like a and this may even be a vegan soap. I'm sorry, I can't remember. But this is feeling like kind of a vegan soap that just might need that tallow to really give it a luxury feel. But I've just experienced so many other soaps with this same feel, this same light, soapy airiness to them. And I think it's actually diminishing here in my hands as I'm working it. Now, it didn't really diminish to an appreciable level on my face. See, it's light, and you can see those bubbles, even though I've mixed it and worked it. And but it's keeping its shape. You can see the weight of the water isn't pulling those peaks down. There we go. You know, at least we got some movement there. So anyway, it's definitely a usable, enjoyable, workable soap. But to me, it doesn't compare to it doesn't compare well enough because of the price point. All right, let's do a final rinse. I think more face lathers might benefit from trying some kind of big poofy badger like this. Look at that lack of density. High density brushes are the rage right now. But if you're a face latherer, don't you want your brush to hold a lot of good lather for you? When there's too many hairs in there, there's not enough room for soap or lather. At least that's just the way I see it. And so I think, wouldn't it be great if they would try out a brush like this? Now, of course, it doesn't have the backbone, but man, this thing is cloud soft. Just so good. And there's plenty of room in there for lather. And it rinses really well because of the easy flow through. A big old knot from Kent. I'm not really feeling a post shave that. Matter of fact, right now, after I rinsed off, my face is actually kind of tacky. I'm not getting it's stopping my fingers from moving along my skin. And maybe that's some kind of special post-shave ingredient, but I don't know. I'm going to use a Stirling splash, and so I like to try to help my face out. Sometimes the alcohol or the fragrance oil in the Stirling is a little harsh for me. And so I've got this witch hazel. It's unscented, alcohol-free Thayer's and witch hazel solution because it's probably mostly aloe instead of witch hazel. There is obviously some witch hazel in it, but it's, I think somebody figured out that it must be more like... according to the list of ingredients, it must be maybe around 8%, so a pretty small amount. But even with just the aloe, it does a good job for me. It's going to work on my face a little bit and calm it down so that the essential oils or fragrance oils that are in the City Slicker or just the harshness of the alcohol, it won't feel as bad, won't erupt me in a little bit of apparent red irritation. I have had that happen before several times. So, 4.5 teaspoons of water today for the Vincent. I liked many things about the soap. I just didn't like the finger feel. It didn't feel elite. The face feel, Razor Glide were good. Just the appearance, it didn't look as attractive as others, but that's not a big deal, is it? The scent is low for me. Maybe along the lines of a 3 while shaving, 3 out of 10. But most importantly, like I've said, it's just that Rudd's opinion of it, to me, is a little too high. I think he needs to rate soaps like Fine, Stirling, Haslinger, and I think he needs to give... for everything to be kind of my view of fair, Southern Witchcrafts, ones like that, all those should have scores that are really close to 94 because that's the level, not top tier. That's the level where that lather feels like it belongs to me. And so that's kind of what I'm disagreeing with. I need to look up. I'm going to guess he's not giving a Stirling a lather score in the 90s. That would be my assumption, but maybe I'm wrong. I'll have to look that up. But to me, those are the peers that this lather is playing with. But at the price point, obviously, it thinks it's batting a lot higher than that. All right. We've given the witch hazel a little bit of time to absorb. Witch hazel is not a post-shave product like alum that you should rinse away. You can leave it on. I like City Slicker a lot. It was a limited release, I believe. I'm sorry that it apparently didn't sell, because I don't think if they did bring it as a part of their normal lineup, I didn't see where they did, or they discontinued it maybe a year later or something like that. But it's got outdoorsy elements to it, as well as maybe a plug for a cologne type scent, and it's a nice mix of the two. I really enjoy it. This may be my only aftershave for that. And this is the sample, the size they have, 2 ounces. That they do their seasonal Black Friday only, kind of scents in at Stirling. Fortunately, I've got 2 tubs of this. I'll probably never end up using it all, but at least I have a backup just in case I switch to that. Put that witch hazel away. I like to use the sprayer because I've got these gaps in my fingers, and the something I sprinkle in usually just goes through. And so by spraying, I coat my hand with the liquid, and then I'm able to use more of it effectively, is what I'm assuming and what it seems like is happening. All right, so a little bit more than a 1/4 teaspoon of soap was used, and then 4.5 teaspoons of water for today's shave. And I got a lot of lather. I feel like I hit the lather at a very good point. I'm glad I added the extra water. I feel like I got it about as good as it can get. All right. Man, this City Slicker, it doesn't have anything to compete with because Vincent was so weak, so anything will go after Vincent. I'm really enjoying this scent as I'm going to clean up my gear. So this City Slicker, man, what a great way to finish off the shave. I'm just walking around in it and really enjoying it. Wow. Okay, and I believe it could be one of those dupes, one of the ones that's inspired by another fragrance. I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up. The razor, I think I might have to use it with a few more blades because it performed really well after the second shave, second pass. During the second pass and the third, it's just that first one was a little rough. And it handled the Nacet pretty well, actually. It was tuggy, quite tuggy, but not painfully so. Uncomfortably so, yes, but because it's almost worth allowing, because I know this is coming, a nice close cut. And so those other passes, the second pass, the third pass, probably enough to make my face forget about the first one. So a good shave. It's a good soap, don't get me wrong. I just disagree with how high it was rated by Rudd's. Or at least, if it's that high, and some of the other ones I mentioned aren't that same height in terms of score, then that's kind of where I disagree. All right, man, isn't it awesome when you finish with a scent that you really enjoy, because everything seems so great. Mad Dinger Joe, you and I are Vincent buddies today, and that's awesome. He is a great guy. Pleasure to meet him when he first joined the sub, and it's been really fun interacting with him. He's hilarious and just a great guy. All right, I think that's it. 276 with the Nacet is done. Thanks so much for watching. I hope there's been something in here in this video that is going to help you out. You take care. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Good night.